I actually wanted to start with the rear doors first because, being a novice, if anything went wrong I could at least mitigate the damage, as I wouldn't be too dependent on needing to use those. It actually turns out though that it's easier than I thought it was going to be to remove door cards. First thing we need to do is remove a screw that is holding the door card down tight, then we can start to remove the clips holding it in place. To do this, I'll be using my trusty interior removal tools from the first video, and if you need anything featured in this video, I'll leave them in the link below. When removing the cover on the door card to access the Phillips head screw, it's interestingly and rather conveniently attached to the door card itself, so I guess at the very least I won't be losing it. The door card is held on with these rubber clips that actually clip into the metal structure of the door, which are easy enough to remove by prying the plastic door card away from the metal. They just kind of come away as one piece, but during the process some of the rubber clips might stay stuck in the door, so you do want to have some pliers handy just in case you need to pull them out, as the door cards just won't sit right when you try to reattach them. Once removed, you'll see the car innards. The rear door just holds wiring for the central locking, and you'll notice these rather cool white plastic covers that are protecting the electrics underneath. I did try and have a sneak peek. They are kind of glued down with some heavy industrial glue, so I didn't want to mess with them too much. So I just focused on the exposed metal parts only. And as always, before applying the soundproofing mats, make sure the area is clean so they adhere properly. As you see, even though the areas I'm cleaning aren't exposed like the outside is, dust still gets in there and they do need to be cleaned. Just look at how dirty they actually are. When I was soundproofing the rear door, you can see that I've tried to get as close as I can to soundproofing each little area, and you can see where I've had to apply and cut multiple different mats in order to make it fit, because this space needs to be covered properly in order for it to work. After about 2 or 3 hours of work, the majority of the exposed metal is covered, and I can now pop the door card back on. And by the way, putting it on is much harder than taking it off, just because of how fiddly the door lock area can be to align, so you are going to need to take a bit of time on that. With the door card reattached, I did notice that it popped out a bit at the top, but that's likely due to the sound material interfering slightly with the fit, but it's fairly noticeable. And I did also make sure to check the central locking still works, and it does. So hooray for that. And if you're enjoying the video so far, don't forget to like the video so more people can benefit from it. Now that the rear doors are done, let's move on to the front doors. Looking at the front doors, I immediately knew it was going to be a bit more involved. The controls for the electric window are on a separate unit that you basically have to remove, and you have a cover behind the door lock hiding a Phillips screw with another one hidden behind this little hatch on the door handle. You can actually unplug the window controls once you've pried them away. They're basically being held in place by a connector that has a release pin, and as you can see from me fiddling about with it, it took quite some time to actually figure that out. If you struggle to find it, the release clip is just here. Once everything was unscrewed or taken off, I started to remove the door card with the same tools I've used on the car for the bonnet, the boot, the rear doors, basically everything. And once you've got the clips released, it's easy just to get the rest, but I still did have issues with some clips staying in the metal part of the door rather than coming out as part of the actual door card. So same again, just get some pliers and yank those little things out. Once the door card is off, it presents a much more interesting picture to me than the rear door does. It still has the standard plastic foam covers that are present on the rear doors, but it also has this huge foam block that looks like a piece of cheese, and I'm assuming it's there to give the door card some weight, but it also probably does an excellent job at deadening the sound as well. Focusing back on the door for a second, there are much more electrics in the front than there are in the rear. You have electrics for the speaker, central locking and windows, and you can see they are all very neatly loomed, which is very, very nice. But again, no soundproofing really on the larger section on the doors, so I have a bit to work with, so I don't have to worry too much about missing out. And like the rear doors, there's also foam covering those plastic parts, so it's rather covered. As always, a quick clean, then I started to apply sound deadening mats, and it might be clearly apparent, but lots of little cuts were needed to make the fitting just right. Much more than the rear doors. The front doors were just much more time consuming in general, so don't think this is going to be an easy fix, so do think carefully before starting this. As the hours went on and day drew close to night, I had to get a move on in order to get all this finished, but finish it I did, and these are the results of a fully covered front door, and I am very happy with it. I've covered pretty much everywhere I could really, and you do feel the results straight away, much more than the bonnet and the boot, as you would expect. And the best way I can describe it is that it feels like you're driving along with cotton wool in your ears, and the road noise is significantly dampened that comes through the door card. One thing it does to the door as well though is it does make the door significantly heavier, which I should have expected, but you just think with it being like almost thin paper material, it's not going to be that heavy, but it is. Still, when you take the car out and you drive along, you notice it most clearly on the soundproof side on the gravelly roads compared to the non-soundproof side, because you'll get lots of vibration and judder on the side that you haven't done, but the side that's been soundproofed just doesn't react at all. It's brilliant, and I think overall it's a great result, but I don't want to jump the gun yet and start taking decimal readings, as there's just so much more to soundproof. And if you haven't already, do check out the first episode here, and I'll see you there.